all across our land, and for generations, parents have told their children, be safe, as they bid them a warm farewell. We use those words because instinctively we know the world is not safe, that east of Eden is a dangerous place for our kith and our kin to be. And yet, for generations in Christendom in the West, that sense of danger that haunts us all, that fear of death that is constantly stalking each child of Adam and Eve, has been joined together with this warm sense that round about and underneath are the everlasting arms of a kind providence. And that even if the worst should befall us or our children, and we are pulled into the valley of the shadow of death, there's only a shadow ever in God's creation because there's light. That there's only a shadow in the shadow of death because beyond death, in the Christian world and life view, there beckons the warm and bright hope of a better tomorrow where the Son of Righteousness rises with healing upon his wings. Now that's the way fathers and mothers for generations have used the term be safe, but in our day and age, as the weightiness and the glory of God has increasingly drifted away from our culture, or our culture has drifted away from it, that same phrase, be safe, has with it now a more panicked scream of a worldview that is desperate to avoid death at all costs. Our culture is not the first culture to deal with the stalking reality of death. The West, all the way back even to Rome, had this phrase that they would refer to, Memento Mori, remember that you must die. It sounds morbid to our ears, but to the ears of our fathers and those gone before, it was a call to arms, a call to life, a call to take action, to lay hold of the passing moment in the knowledge that once a moment is past, it's gone forever. Memento Mori. But to our generation, those words represent a call to fear, to hide, to shut down, to preserve life at all costs, even if it means we lose what it means to be alive along the way and safeguard only our ability to exist. It reminds me of a poem by W.H. Auden, a poem he wrote on September the 1st, 1939, when the Nazis were invading Poland. The poem begins with Auden describing waves of anger and fear circulating over the bright and darkened lands of the earth, obsessing our private lives. The unmentionable odour of death offends this September night. The unmentionable odour of death is a phrase for our time, isn't it? The odour of death touches everything. It infects the air we breathe, the things we touch, the friends we embrace. As we look at our culture panicking and fearing, it really tells the story of people who don't know what to do with death and the fear of death. So how do we live in the face of death? I think we need to keep at least three truths firmly in mind. First of all, life is precious. So precious that it must be protected from the womb to the grave. That is to say, we are our brother's keeper, that we must do all that we can to protect and preserve not just our own life, but the lives of others. With that said, however, while that is true, it's not the only truth. Life is also precious, so precious that it must be risked. Even in living our lives, there involves risk. Getting in our car, driving on the roads involves risk. Risk to our own life and risk to our brother's life. We surely shouldn't embrace the neurotic fear of the recluse who hides away from life and loses what it means to be alive in his desperate effort to guard his existence. And we're not talking about senseless risk here, of course, you understand. We're talking about risk for life's sake. Risk for realities that are bigger and better than our life. Things like the love of neighbour and the glory of God. As we tell our own congregation, Lord's Day by Lord's Day, we gather for worship not because it's safe, and certainly not because we can guarantee your safety or ours, but because there are some things worth risking our safety to enjoy and to pursue. And if the public worship of Almighty God is not one of those things, I don't know what is. To that end, life is also precious enough that it must be lost, given away. One of my elders has a sign in his doorway. It says, "Give your life away." That's the strange logic of the gospel, isn't it? That we find our life by laying it down and giving it up in the service of God and in the service of others. And it's the lesson too, taught by the church down through the ages, who chose ministry over safety in times of plague and disease. It's Christ who chose our safety as a higher reality even than his own. He chose his Father's glory as a reality more important than his own safety, and laid down his life and took up the cross. As Jesus said, "For whoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel shall find it." Christ has shown us many things, and he offers us many things. Things as big as God and as long as eternity. But being safe in this brief little moment is not one of them. Let's therefore, my brothers and sisters, lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily entangles, and run with endurance the race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. As one famous missionary once said, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep in order to gain what he cannot lose."